Hello, 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 and welcome to the latest installment of And Sarah Appeared. My name is Sarah, and I'm appearing before you today because I need some clarity. Don't we all always need clarity? First of all, here's the thing. We promote doing it scared. We promote going out there and taking baby steps to be able to walk into our purpose or figure out if the creativity that we are gearing up and going into is even an avenue that we want to be in, or maybe it's an exploration into another stream of creativity that we never even fathomed of exploring. The thing about the message, the manifesto of do it scared is just a stolen culture colloquial from the kingdom culture, which says walk by faith and not by sight. Also, it is a principle of do not despise small and humble beginnings. So, doing it scared is actually a kingdom commandment. Doing it without knowing what the outcome is, what's going to happen, is anybody even going to be able to watch, listen, whatever. Doing it scared is doing it the right way. And it is also part of doing it in excellency, because if you don't even get to the edge of it, if you don't even get in the kitchen to bake the cake, how are you going to know what a good cake looks or tastes like? How are you going to know? All you do is research recipes, but you don't actually get in the kitchen to whip anything up. So you're now fantasizing and romanticizing about all these cakes that you wish you could make, but they're never coming into fruition and you're not doing it. And it's because you're afraid that your first cake is going to come out lopsided. You're afraid that you're not going to get the measurements right. You put too much vanilla in the cake. You didn't put enough granulated sugar or whatever ingredients you put in it. You're afraid that your fondant is going to melt on the cake, and instead of having a beautiful picture of a Care Bear, it looks like Shrek. I don't know if somebody's into baking or into cakes. I don't know, but that's the analogy that popped into my head. But it doesn't matter. Do it scared, because that's a principle. Here's the thing. When you do it scared, expect opposition along the way. And I am talking to myself because that's what I do. Let me tell you something. When I started my podcast, it was because God told me to start it. When I was in prayer and I was praying and worshiping God, I heard him say, I want you to start a podcast. And it took me like at least 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks before I actually did anything on the instruction. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I didn't know how I was going to talk. I wasn't looking for notoriety. Notoriety found me. I wasn't looking for any kind of attention or anyone. I was just like, I'm starting this podcast. It's actually very therapeutic. It's actually very cathartic for me to be able to speak about some of my experiences, and not one time in any of my experience, unless I talked about my relatives who played a role in my trauma and my molestation, did I reference or was I talking about any other it, here's the thing about it. When you have a public podcast and when you're talking about something, even if it pertains to a different situation, don't let anybody try to bully you or railroad you into a corner because they know that they fit the description of the equation that you're giving to the masses. You could call it dry snitching, you can call it bitterness, you can call it whatever you want. But at the end of the day and at the beginning of the sentence, you better call it mine, because it wasn't a conference call when God told me to start my podcast and my platform. I never started anything out of notoriety. I always started it because it was something that was as of a release and therapeutic to me and myself. How do we give the narrative of do it scared, but then when people are doing it scared with no following, they're doing it scared with no backup, no support. They don't even have the technology that they need to be able to do things in the way that they want it to look, but they're doing it scared and they're taking a risk, and you attack the very plans that God has for that person to do it scared, or you're critiquing the fact that this person shouldn't be out here doing this because they're undeveloped and not ready and they're this and they're that. I need us to make up our mind. Are we going to walk on faith, or are we going to sit here and say, it's just not the right time? When will it ever be the right time to be able to take a chance on you? And And furthermore, I'm going to put this out there in regards to me. I was a very rare case because I'm a very rare person. I had people who were in powerful places who were attracted to what I was doing, and no one really wanted to step in to well, what happened was it wasn't anyone wasn't stepping in to help, because you don't have to, like, I wasn't looking for that either. I had people who saw what was going on and they understood and they got a glimpse of the vision and they saw me as a threat, and so they came after me. One of the things that goes on in industries, in ecosystems of life. When ecosystems of life are, happening, one of the things that go on, or one of the things that take place is, there's a hierarchy. The hierarchy is, financial, but it's also energetic. And for me, because I had walked away from the old establishment, I was doing things that God had called me to do. There was an assault against my platform, against my persona, and against who I was as a person, based off of the fact that I was walking into my purpose. That assault came specifically from my relatives because they've never wanted me to amount to anything. And also, they had made, pacts and oaths based off of what they have now, which is absolutely nothing. Here's the thing about harvesting. Why would you harvest energy off of somebody and then not flip it and get a bag from it? I'm specifically talking to my uncle and my aunt here. Why did you do all of that? And I don't know if it's like an issue, like, do you have an addiction or what? But I want to know, why did you take an oath against someone like me? I'm offended because this is grade A premium octane right here. Okay? This is like, I'm Tesla, right? So like, I'm trying to figure out, why would you do all of that stupid stuff and then turn around and not have nothing to show for it? Because if people knew where y'all lived, it would be like you hustling backwards. Like, did you get raked over? Like, the people that you deal with, did they? I've never seen anybody do nefarious things like how they've done, and they have nothing to show for it. I ain't never seen that in my life. I thought that the more nefarious you were, the more abundant you were supposed to, that's what I thought. That's honestly what I thought. I don't know. I'll leave y'all to your own vices. Something wrong with them. That's something wrong with them. Welcome to the family, y'all. But I say all that to say this. Um, when you do it scared, but when you don't do it, like, here, my situation was, it was a situation where, you know, there one it was a situation where, because there was not going to be able to have, someone wasn't going to be able to monetize off of the content that I was creating, I became an enemy because they saw money literally walking out the door when I walked out the door. And so because of that, they were devastated because like the song says, if you lose me, you lose a good thing. And I'm being completely honest. A lot of people want to say, you're afraid of commitment, you're afraid of this, you're afraid of that. I'm not afraid of commitment. I'm afraid of committing to the wrong thing. It's not like I don't have a fear of commitment. I have a fear of I have a fear of slavery. I have a fear of slavery. I have a fear of switch and bait and switch. I have a fear of being so naive to the point where it's like, gotcha. I have a fear of everything that I have been fought for since I was born being snatched away from me, and then me not being able to recover because I wasn't energetically, mentally, or spiritually strong enough to be faced with that kind of debilitating circumstances. That's what a lot of people out here have a problem with. That's where a lot of our issues with our addictions come from. You are in a situation to where you're brilliant, you're great, you're out here and you're working and you're doing what you're doing, and you're producing and you're doing content, but you're doing content underneath the guise of a pharaohic system. You are in Egypt because it's not that you don't have a dedication to yourself. And here's the thing, not all ecosystems or hierarchies where there's a contract or where there's a commitment involved, I'm not against contracts. I'm not against contracts. I sound like Joe Budden. Oh my God. I'm not against contracts. I am against not being educated about the type of contract that you're in. That's what I'm against. I'm against ignorance. And this is coming from somebody who literally walked around with a veil of ignorance on them spiritually. But I'm not against, I might have had a veil of ignorance, but I poked a hole in that thing. But I'm not against contracts. I'm not against commitments. I'm against not knowing the details, not knowing the fine line, and not knowing the super fine print. That's Okay, and we're back. So you have to expect that when you do start it and when you started scared, depending on what's going on with you and your blueprint and how big things, God has things for you, you have to be able to prepare for opposition. At the end of the day and at the beginning of the sentence, I might walk away from something that doesn't serve me anymore, but I never run away from an actual fight.